How you doing, everybody? This is Rashawn Underdo
Rick
and
Curtis.
Absolutely, we're here at Farmers Insurance, and today we're going to talk about umbrella policies. Now, recently I had a customer whose daughter got into an accident and caused some major damage. And the only reason why these people were safe and didn't have to come out of pocket is because they had an umbrella policy.
Okay.
Now, we were in Reno recently. Rick got to see some old buddies.
I sure did.
We shared a room and we
had a very good time. Good
Absolutely.
information.
Great information. So I want us to tell the people how umbrella policies work and who needs it and why.
Okay, so first of all, you asked me how umbrella policies work. Umbrella policy pretty much is what's classified as an excess policy. So it goes on top of your underlying policy. So if you have an automobile, if you have a home, if you have jet skis, you have watercraft, things of that nature. What it is, it's a liability policy that goes on top of that, all right? So what it does is this. So you talked about a client of yours that had an umbrella policy that had an accident, all right?
Her daughter.
So her daughter had an accident. So, and she did, from what I understand, she caused a lot of property damage. She was involved in an accident where there were multiple cars that she pretty much totaled out, trying to maneuver through traffic. So her underlying limits on her automobile policy were pretty adequate. They were $250,000, $500,000, which means $250,000 per person and $500,000 per accident for any type of bodily injury that she causes or the insurer causes as a result of her negligence. In addition to that, I believe you told me she had $250,000 in property damage.
Correct.
Okay? So what happens is this. Once you exhaust those underlying limits in your automobile policy, whatever is unpaid will then be paid using the umbrella policy.
Got it.
So let me give you an example with this here. I had a friend of mine who was a surgeon, plastic surgeon, and he well-to-do. He probably made in excess of $2 million a year, okay? Wow. He was on his motorcycle one day, okay? And there was a car that made a left-hand turn. It was actually an SUV that made a left-hand turn in front of him. The SUV driver saw him. The SUV driver, when they were questioned by the police, said, hey, we thought we could beat him before he pulled into the intersection. Wow. He ended up being pretty much a bug on that person's windshield. He did live, fortunately, okay? But he was unable to work for almost 2 years, okay? Wow. Now, like I said, he's a plastic surgeon. He works with his hands. This guy shattered just about every bone in his body. He broke his back. He shattered all the bones in his hands. He had to have major reconstructive surgery just to get back in form, okay? Wow. Now, the person who he hit or hit him, she did have insurance. It was the daughter driving. It wasn't an adult or someone with a lot of driving experience. There it is, a lot of driving experience. And so this person that he hit or hit him had a whole lot of assets, had homes, had multiple vehicles, was a business owner.
Her parents,
business owners, right? And they did well. But what they didn't have was they didn't have adequate limits on their automobile policy. They had 100, 350, which basically is $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident, bodily injury, and $50,000 in
property damage.
So of course, the motorcycle was covered. His motorcycle, it was a Bugatti. It wasn't $50,000, okay? But his injuries exceeded.
Hope you guys are listening.
His injuries exceeded $1 million, okay?
Okay.
And we're not even taking into consideration the income that he lost for being out of work for almost 2 years. So of course, he filed a lawsuit against the driver and her parents.
Wow.
What happened was that driver had to liquidate, or her parents had to liquidate the business, had to sell homes in order to pay for the damages that was caused by her daughter or their daughter. Now, if they had an umbrella policy, okay, pennies on the dollar, liability, an umbrella policy, $300 for a $2 million policy.
So they're not that expensive.
No, liability is pennies on the dollar. Had they had an umbrella policy,
for like $300 a year.
That's it. They would have been okay. But because they didn't,
they had to liquidate almost $1 million in assets.
That's right, So the takeaway is this, people will say, I don't have the adequate limit. So people think they have adequate limits
Yeah.
on their automobile insurance, right? I haven't had an accident in over 20 years. I've been driving for over 30, right? But that's not the issue. My son, who's 19, he's already had an accident. He's totaled out his car. I've got a high-end, high net worth client who's got to be worth north of $10 million, okay? He's got an umbrella policy, right? His daughter, his 22-year-old daughter has already had 2 at-fault accidents where she's caused major bodily injury, okay? So the takeaway is this. It's for pennies on the dollar, you know? People always complain about the cost of insurance, all right?
Rightfully so.
You cannot put your seatbelt on after you hit the tree. It's too late, you know? How many of us wish that, you know what, in lieu of a $2, $3, $4, $500,000 lawsuit that we have to settle, how many of us wish that we can just write a check for $300 or $400 and get that adequate underlying umbrella policy or that adequate umbrella policy, you know, to take care of all the additional exposure that you leave yourself out there.
Now let me ask you this, Rick.
Sure.
That umbrella policy, how does it extend to the home? If somebody has a pool and unfortunately someone passes away and drowns, or police officers. I know a lot of police officers, and I know if somebody robs their house, they're gonna take care and protect their home. A lot of times these police officers get sued.
Well, here's the thing on the house. Most people only have $100,000 or $300,000 in liability on their home.
Yeah.
Okay, that's typical. It's standard. You know, check the box, $100,000 liability. Now some
Exactly.
Now some good agents will write $300,000 in liability or even $500,000 in liability, right? But here's the thing. You talk about the police officers, you talk about people with pools. I've had the unfortunate experience to have a client who owned a pool, had someone drown in his pool, and he didn't have an umbrella policy. However, he had $1 million worth of liability coverage. So what happened was that $1 million in liability coverage paid for a lawsuit that he was faced with, right? But I didn't know any better. This was at the beginning of my career, 17 years ago, you know? I had no clue on how to adequately protect somebody's assets, okay? Now I understand, okay? So had I known that, and this man was well off. He was a very, very successful, or is a very successful real estate broker in Los Angeles. And he owns a whole lot of residential property. Okay? Had I known better back then, I would have wrote him an umbrella policy on top of the existing policy that he had.
Got it.
He has them now.
Yes.
Okay, he has them now. But you know, for pennies on the dollar, you can have an umbrella policy. It's nothing, and it just gives you peace of mind. It limits the exposure that you have. And like I said, it may not be you, but it may be that young son that's coming up in the house, or that young daughter, you know, that puts you in peril. Okay? And all it takes, split second. And now guess what? All the things you've built over the years, now you're possibly may have to liquidate that stuff to pay a lawsuit.
Well, there you heard it, guys.
Okay.
Umbrella policy. Protect your assets, protect your family, protect your home, protect your life. Call us today, 310-674-9557 extension.
Extension 232.
Peace. Thank you.